Hi, everybody. I am Carol Kauffman, the founder of the Institute of Coaching with Margaret Moore and Susan David. And I am here with, as you can see, Asheesh Advani, and we are in for a treat. So he is the CEO of Junior Achievement Worldwide, a global NGO that creates, develops, and implements hands-on education. Okay, what does that mean? So Asheesh, when I was doing research on you, because you're too selfless to brag. So guys, we're talking about Junior Achievement Worldwide works with up to 15 million people every year, 500,000 volunteers, 3,500 employees. And I know you don't like me to talk about this, but you have also been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. So guys, we are really, really very happy to have Asheesh with us. And what he's also done recently with Marshall Goldsmith is to write a new book. Since I don't have it with me because I'm in Tuscany, Asheesh, can you hold it up, please? It is called Modern Achievement, a new approach to timeless lessons for aspiring leaders. And what he and I have also discovered is that it turns out to be a good parenting book as well. So for all of you with us, one, very interested to hear about Junior Achievement and the book, and what really life is looking like now for the young leaders and even for our children, because as it turns out, it's a very good parenting book, which was not expected. So Asheesh, jump in and tell us a little bit more about Junior Achievement.
Sure. Well, JA has been around now for over 100 years. It's a great organization. And you're right about the Nobel Peace Prize nomination. Just to be super clear, I'm not nominated. The organization's nominated for all the great work that we do. I wanted to make sure I snuck that in there, Carol, because people might think otherwise.
Okay, sorry.
It really is a impactful organization because we reach young people at the time of their life where they're deciding who they are and who they can become. So we like to say that our programs help young people go from I can't to I can. And we do that in a number of ways. Specifically, the content areas we teach are entrepreneurship skills, work readiness skills, and financial health and financial literacy skills. For a lot of young people, it's often their first time being exposed to business or meeting a business volunteer in a classroom setting or after school. And it opens their mind up to careers and things that they could do with their life they didn't know existed before they met this business person who becomes a role model sometimes for helping them sort of be guided with choices. So I've been now.
I said it really opens up a world to these people.
You go first, Carol.
Sorry, I'm in
a Well, I was going to say, so, I've been with the organization. Well, because you're in Tuscany, there's a little bit of a delay. I think there's about a 1.8 delay because it's a euro versus a dollar. So there's probably a translation right there. So we'll see if we can delay here. But I was just going to say that, I've been with the organization for over 9 years now, and I've seen it evolve. And I've also seen how the programs make such an impact in many communities around the world where sometimes we're the only organization being able to provide these services to young people. And I just get very energized because the coaching profession, and you know this, Carol, given what you do, has been so kind to JA. We've had coaches who serve on our boards. We've had coaches who've been helping our leaders with providing professional coaching services. We've had coaches help young people by volunteering in the classroom in this community.
So I am having internet challenges here. So why don't you tell us more about what you learned writing Modern Achievement with Marshall Goldsmith? Hey Siri, call Austin Mazel. Asheesh, you're going to have to just take it away because I'm not really having internet here. Sorry, people. Austin, I'm having terrible internet problems. You need to help us. Oh, he's
So I think
frozen.
I'm still live.
Yeah.
Share any thoughts?
Okay. Austin, would you get on with Asheesh? Just ask him to tell us about modern achievement. Put it in the chat.
Hey, Asheesh, you're able to hear me?
Hi, Austin. Can you hear me? Okay. Oh, everyone, I'm so sorry. Asheesh, are you with us? So do I have his phone number? Yes. Let me get it to you. Hold on. Hi, everybody. If you can hear me, which I have no idea if you can, our apologies. We are in internet hell. Yeah. Okay. I couldn't hear that. What? Oh, dear. Okay. His number is, can you hear me, Austin? Oh, thank you, Denise. I will see what we can do to help get Asheesh with us. Asheesh, if you can hear me, we cannot see or hear you. If you could try to dial back in. Ah, thank you, Amit. Well, I can tell you, his book is great. And he wrote it with Marshall Goldsmith. Ah, he's calling me finally. Hi, Ann. Hi.
So, I could hear you, but I don't think you could hear me. And then I got pushed out of StreamYard, which is probably fine.
Can you come back in? Because everyone can see and hear me, but they couldn't see you. So
That's weird.
click back in again and just see if that works better.
Okay, I'm trying. I'll keep you on speaker.
Yeah, keep me on speaker. So all, if you can hear me, one of the interesting things about modern achievement that I've been learning from Asheesh is that the world is so different for people just entering the workforce now. Okay. Say something. Can we hear you?
Hi, I'm back. Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so maybe we had a lapse for a while. Back to you, Carol.
Sure. What I was about to tell people when I thought I was going to have to present what you do was the incredible difference of what's waiting for people in the workforce now, which is why you call the book Modern Achievement, because some of the facts you told me were stunning.
So, for example, a young person graduating from college or from high school today, on average, is going to have at least 20 different jobs and at least 7 different careers, if you believe some of the research done by the World Economic Forum on this topic. And that is a very different state of change compared to what happened in our careers, Carol, for example. So I tried to draw from lessons from my own career and lessons from Marshall's career, and really also from advice of a lot of young people and top leadership coaches to guide the sort of the state of being for young people with this much change. So most achievement books are written really with long-term goal setting in mind, right? You write down a goal, you visualize the goal, and the universe helps it come true. That's the classic achievement book of the past. So if we're going to have this much change, particularly in the professional lives of young people, we need to embrace a definition of achievement that sets multiple goals and really leans in on the process and the journey of achievement, not as much on goal attainment being necessarily the definition. So that's been, I would say, one of the unique elements of the book. And what we've done to bring it to life is we've told many, many stories, particularly some stories from young people who've been able to already navigate this world of having multiple jobs, multiple careers. So that's been, I think the coaching profession, Carol, is particularly good at helping people navigate through transitions and change. So I think it lends itself to this definition.
Well, I think what's really also interesting is how our leadership models are really suited to the old achievement. And do you have some thoughts about how people should be leading now and how to work in this kind of more um, fluid environment? And what are some of the things that you talk about in the book?
Well, for example, we've organized the book into 3 sections because with this level of change, you need to be adaptable. So we have a framework called fixed, flexible, freestyle. Big shout out to the board chair of Junior Achievement Worldwide, whose name is Jonas Priesing. He was the board chair for the last 3 years. His term just expired. He's the CEO and chair of Manpower. And I learned about fixed, flexible, freestyle based on what he was doing at Manpower. He encouraged me to adapt it and bring it to Junior Achievement in a way that made it sort of suitable for our organization. And that framework has been so powerful, not just to help me in my leadership role, but also, I would say, for this book, it's helped us frame these rules and these lessons in a way that's relevant for a world that's changing. So fixed things obviously don't change with place and time. Flexible things do vary based on place and time. So for Junior Achievement, something that is true in Africa may not be true in Europe, for example. For a young person, it may be a rule or a guideline or a lesson may be true in their early career, but not in their later career, for example. So one concrete sort of example to bring it to life, which I think is really relevant for leaders of today and tomorrow, is this idea called going meta or meta learning. So one of the lessons in the book, we call it Go Meta, really embraces this idea of stepping back and looking at the learning process like you were observing it as a stakeholder outside yourself. So imagine yourself floating above the room as you're learning, right? And really looking at what you've just learned. In fact, they teach this in schools now. It's quite common in schools. At the end of a lesson, which we never had when we went to school, you actually take a moment and you figure out what the learning objectives were of the lesson and whether you actually learned them. That's a pretty unique way to reflect on what you've just gone through. And I think it's particularly important for leaders and really, anyone in management to do this now, because if we're going through this much change, this many jobs and this many careers, you need to take a moment to figure out what you're good at, what you've learned from the last experience before you go on to the next one. And a lot of people don't necessarily naturally think to do that.
So when you have sort of talked to like hundreds of these young people, what's your sense of kind of what's the main challenge that they're facing as they're trying to develop and move into kind of this grown-up work world?
Well, I mean, I think the challenges of young people today are very similar to the challenges that probably you and I had early in our career, is knowing what is their natural passion, what they want to do versus what they think they can either make money at or what their parents want them to do, what their environment wants them to do. I think they also are confronted with a world where there's uncertainty about whether their educational choices will actually lead to job prospects. That's probably a bit different relative to what we went through. So also around the world, I would say there's such vast differences in resource, but the mindset that people have is also a different trajectory of different. So in other words, you could be in a part of the world or in a community which has very little resource, but yet you can have a completely abundant mindset and think opportunities in front of you. And you could be in a part of the world which has lots of resources, but yet have the scarcity mindset and think, oh my God, everything is going wrong. Things are worse for me now than they were for my parents, and I'm not going to find a job. And because of my role, I get a chance to travel a bit and see young people around the world. I see such radical differences on both these sort of trajectories. And at least in the book, what we try to do is we really try to embrace that abundant mindset and to allow young people to think about opportunity, not just scarcity.
Yeah, tell us more about this freestyle concept. That was really kind of new to me when I was reading through your book.
Yeah, so fixed, flexible, and freestyle is the third category. And in the freestyle section of the book, we've got lessons from young people. So for example, one of the lessons is to make friends 5 to 10 years older than you. This young person, his name is Aman. He was educated in the US, but now lives in Dubai, had a chance to travel around, had different jobs. And if you're gonna have this much change in your life with 20 careers or 20 jobs and 7 different careers, you really have to lean into building this professional network. We're always told to get mentors, and most people think of mentors as 20 years older or a whole generation older. But really being able to build this network of role models, really, who are a few years older than you, who can actually help you navigate some of these choices. In his case, he actually found a job because he got to know somebody who was 5 to 10 years older than him. And I think I guess in our generation, we may have fallen into that or kind of benefited from that, but it's such an important life lesson if there's going to be this much change. Ironically, Carol, when we put this in the book and I had people read the early drafts, what came back is people who are older like us were saying, geez, I need to make friends with people 5 to 10 years younger than me as well. So we adapted the lesson for 5 to 10 years older to both 5 to 10 years older and younger, because it actually is something even I've started to embrace, is how important it is to learn from people who are younger than you. So that's an example of a freestyle lesson. And the reason it's freestyle is it's so unique to who you are. So fixed is fixed, flexible varies based on time and place. Freestyle is unique to you, your personal strengths, your ability to innovate and be curious to your own needs and goals. That, I think, is a sort of an element of the framework that I think is relevant for a workforce that needs to be agile.
Absolutely. One of the during the book, why don't you sort of describe the structure of the book? Because there's a couple of, I have my own personal favorites in the book of pragmatic. So I'll list them and you can do the one that's fun for you to talk about. I love the idea about pragmatic optimism, the power of yet. Those are the two that I really just thought, we're thinking now of like us, but you are really expanding in Africa and many, many third world countries, and bringing these concepts to them is just so important. So which one of those feels most fun for you to talk about? The pragmatic optimism, the power of yet?
Well, the power of yet is very popular. In fact, that was the example lesson that we included in a lot of the pre-reading for the book, even at JA when we distributed some early copies to staff. And the reason is this word yet is just such a great word, right? It allows you to reframe things in your mind by just adding that one simple word. So for example, particularly for a young person, I'm not good at math. You have a lot of young people who say in school, I'm not good at math, but I'm not good at math yet changes the whole conversation. Or, I have no experience with using AI. I have no experience with using AI yet. That the addition of the word starts to reframe, it triggers in your own mind this need for curiosity and learning, and this recognition that if you've been able to master some skills, let's say you're really good at soccer, but you haven't done well at math, but you've practiced a lot in soccer, but you haven't practiced much math because you don't like it as much. I'm not good at math yet opens up in your mind the idea of saying, geez, if I practiced math as much as I practiced soccer, I might actually be good at whatever the thing is in front of me that I've got to get done for school. And you can apply to, of course, anything in life. And I love it personally, and I'm curious as to why you loved it. I love it because in my own life, I found the way I phrase questions to myself and phrases to myself has such a huge impact on my mindset.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What you feel you can and you can't do. I like the way you describe helping people get from I can't to I can. I'm curious about your own development. So here you are, the CEO of this gigantic organization. How did that happen, and what helped you the most?
So I started, as I said, just over 9 years ago. And what led me to this was a very non-traditional career path compared to, I think, most people who end up running nonprofits. So I'm a technology entrepreneur by background. And as I say in the book, I've had many different jobs over the course of my career. And I think the variety has helped me appreciate what I think young people are going to go through with the variety that's coming for them. So that's why having some of my authentic personal stories in the book feels sort of right and appropriate. To be honest, I think I told you this already, Carol. When I first wrote the first draft of this, it didn't include a lot about me at all. And then when I shared some drafts, it's like, sheesh, you've got to lean into telling your personal stories. It brings the whole thing to life. And Marshall, who's of course the co-author, we both know Marshall Goldsmith very well. He's such an amazing mentor, and he just totally knows how to push me into my areas of discomfort, as I think you do occasionally too, Carol. And he said, Asheesh, you got to lean into this. You can't think that way. And so that's why there are a lot of personal stories as well. But, I think you know a little bit about my story, but my technology entrepreneurship background went from being a founder to being a hired CEO in my second company by the venture capital firms, and radically different leadership experiences, right? When you're a founder, people just assume that you're right about everything because you're the majority owner, you came up with the idea, all the early success is partly because you've been pushing it to happen. So I went from that kind of a leadership sort of space to being the hired CEO, where it was somebody else's idea, and it was very much about making sure the best concepts, ideas, and programs and initiatives saw the light of day. So it was about hearing other people, not just pushing my own agenda. And at JA, it's a huge organization, as you mentioned. So the leadership experience is actually about empowering others to say, geez, this national leader is doing great work, or this person who's got a great marketing skill set really needs to be elevated to make sure we can revitalize and modernize the brand. Whatever it might be, my leadership role really, at least the way I frame it to myself, is about empowering others to succeed. And I will tell you, for those who run larger organizations, they probably already know this, but for young people who aren't there yet, I think when you can transition in your mind from leading by advocating to leading by empowering, it is transformational. I mean, it transforms outcomes, transforms the way you think about yourself. It's a great life lesson, I think.
Okay. I'm doing 2 360s right now with 2 CEOs of companies who are the epitome of bright, very smart, very selfless, and incredibly successful. And the 360s, it's so fascinating because you hear people saying, I want him to tell me more things. I want him to be advocating more. And he's then trying to, well, 2 of them are really working on trying to pull from the people rather than push their agendas. What I think it'd be really interesting from your perspective for our coaches to hear, what did you see for yourself when you were able to make that transition? Because it's a huge one.
What did I see? What do you mean?
Yeah, you said you were different outcomes and
I see.
That's what I mean.
So, well, yeah, I mean, if you don't care who takes the credit for a project, great things start to happen, right? So I think a lot of leaders feel they kind of have to be involved because they have to feel they're either advocating a point of view or they kind of want to be able to take the credit, frankly. And I think when you step back and let other people take the credit and you let other people's ideas shine. Now, obviously, there's some degree of selection. Like I'm in the middle of a couple of disputes in our organization, without getting into details, where there's 2 sets of people with great ideas. So now, one of the roles of a leader, I think, is to select the idea that is genuinely right for the organization. That inevitably leads to people feeling you've got favorites, or you're taking sides, or you're biased, or what have you. So I think the role of a leader, if you're empowering others, it might sound like, geez, everyone's happy all the time, Carol, but that's not at all true. What you're effectively at times doing is selecting, is empowering some and encouraging the some, which sometimes means there's a zero-sum game where others have a different point of view. And I think that's where sometimes it's hard as a leader to be able to not be perceived as somebody who's got authority and pushing an agenda when you're empowering one group over another group. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. It just seems like, what is it in Solomon where, 2 people saying, "It's my baby." And then when he says, the famous Solomon story, like, okay, then we'll cut the baby in half. And the mother goes, no, let the other person take the baby. So I think you're really put in those kinds of positions a lot as a leader. And I think having some of the kind of core wisdom that is in this book, that on one hand, it's described for younger people, but frankly, I thought it was really very helpful and useful myself. But my last question is, you had said that you've gotten a lot of feedback about people saying this is a helpful parenting book. And in fact, you're giving some keynotes on modern achievement parenting, which spells MAP. So it's a map. Can you share with us some of, me and acronyms, share with us some of what you've been hearing from people and what you have to think about the parenting implications of this? Because our leadership coaches have children.
Well, it's been a surprise for me, frankly. I think one thing I've realized is when you write a book and it has lessons in it, if you're an adult and the books are like written for you like a self-help book, when you read it, you like react, this is not for me. Or you go on your back heels and think, I don't believe this lesson, I don't believe that lesson. But if the book is written for another audience, in this case, a younger audience, when you read it, you can pick and choose and say, I like this. Oh my goodness, this resonates with me, a bit like you just did on this call. So I think it's just less threatening to get that advice when you're an adult and the book is not written for you. Now, because it's written for young people, I think immediately people who've got teenagers or adult kids love the book because they can find things that they agree with, that they really want their kids to also read or learn. And the book is written in 30 lessons, so everything's really short and easy to jump in and jump out of. In fact, there's an Audible version, and somebody just told me that he's listening to the book in the car with his son on the way to school, just so his son can sort of hear the 15 minutes of, each lesson is like 10 to 15 minutes long in Audible, so it's nice and easy and digestible. The parenting speaking that I'm doing, I'm part of Young Presidents Organization, YPO, and YPO has an amazing parenting community. And the book seems to have resonated with some members, so they would like me to talk about some of the lessons. But it wasn't what was intended with this book. You sort of fall backwards into these things. I think you found out with your book as well, Carol. And so I'm sort of embracing it wherever it takes me. It's obviously it's helping junior achievement as well, because all the proceeds from the book are donated to Jay. I should have mentioned that earlier. And of course, building the community of volunteers and supporters and board members and others for JA is part of why I wrote this. So it's been extremely gratifying. Marshall Goldsmith has been such an amazing partner. He also has been invited to do some keynotes on this. We're doing them together. So it's just been a really fun project.
So everybody, just to give you a flavor of the book, I have the PDF in front of me. I'm just going to run through some of the chapter titles, the sections. Things like meritocracy is not dead. You can't complain your way to a happy life. Write it down. Go meta. Connect beyond the screen. Present your story. Keep your personal burn rate low. I really like that one. Look beyond your parents for advice. Be a good mentee. Find someone who pushes you. They're all out there in these snippets. And one, there's the information. It's kind of like a coach whispering in your ear, but also a number of the Marshall 100 coaches have stories in there, and your personal stories. So as we head out, do you have a favorite part of the book? Like if you could leave us going, okay, this was what really meant the most to me. Because I know that at one point I read my book and it helped me, and it was really surprising. What about you?
Well, I mentioned it earlier already, so I'll just double click on it. This idea of making friends 5 to 10 years older than you or 5 to 10 years younger than you, it's so concrete.
Okay.
And I think it's a good lesson to leave on, because I do think it's very actionable for a lot of people. And I found it's helped me think of myself as somebody who could have reverse mentoring relationships where I can learn from younger people.
That's interesting. So just the whole idea of building your core social network in a new way. And we had someone talk with us a while ago, and he came up with the concept of social fitness. So we're really talking about how to kind of work out your network and become socially fit and sort of blast yourself out of your normal paradigm. So on one hand, we're blasting ourselves out of old-fashioned achievement, and now heading to modern achievement, becoming more fluid and flexible. And I think your book is going to really help a lot of people.
Well, thank you, Carol. Thank you for inviting me to do this. This has been a lot of fun.
So thank you. Take care, everybody.